Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I'm going to try and answer the question, how good is new uniform tier 3 Ebony Maw? Should you prioritize getting this uniform? Should you prioritize getting this character to tier 3? Because as you know, the Black Order are all amazing, but they're also very expensive. So we want to, okay, we got a little bit of a burst there. So we want to really, inform ourselves and think carefully before we invest in some of these characters, just because they are super expensive. So we're going to finish off the fight here, but as you can see, he's got tremendous burst damage, and he's obviously going to be very strong for PvE with a pretty aggressive 5-4-3 or 3-5-4 kind of rotation. So I want to give you guys one more showcase here against Null. We're actually going to go all the way up to stage 30, and I'm going to give you guys a comparison that I've been doing recently on Twitch and Discord. I'm going to be comparing him to MEPHISTO. So first things first, I'm going to swap this over, and this is the team I use for MEPHISTO, with Cyclops' leadership and Storm providing a 35% bonus to elemental damage. Now, MEPHISTO doesn't need, he'll need one of these strikers, so we're going to then give him 2 strikers that are going to give him energy attack and fire damage. So he's going to double dip on both of those things here, and we're going to jump into the fight. I'm going to just keep it rolling. We're just going to do the first part of the fight, but this is going to give you an idea of where Ebony's damage stacks up against other characters, given the amount of pierce that I have on my cards. And I think it's really important to establish that, so you can know, okay, like he's doing like, 20% less damage than MEPHISTO, or he's doing like 10% less damage, or he's doing like 5% more damage than MEPHISTO, or whatever. So in MEPHISTO's case, I know this is an Ebony Maw showcase and we're already talking about another character here, but in MEPHISTO's case, he has 70% ignore dodge on his tier 3, so we don't really have to worry about bringing a lot of those. We actually don't bring any of those strikers, because he gets 70% from the tier 3, which is good enough in most instances. And you can see here his damage, his burst damage, pretty much coincides with him getting his tier 3. We're gonna get stunned here by the shield here, by the cage, excuse me, but that's okay. Keep going here. It takes a little bit of time, but that's okay. Let's do that. Let's do that. I'm gonna play very aggressively, so we're not gonna save the tier 3 or anything like that. This is not meant to be a full clear. This is meant to be a test to see how fast it takes to finish the first phase. So that is 1 minute and 6 seconds. Now we're just going to back out. We're just going to drop in Ebony instead of MEPHISTO. Obviously, his leadership is better than Cyclops's, so we're going to move him to the side so we get the 40%. Some people are going to start, moaning that that's not fair because MEPHISTO doesn't have that lead. Well, that's part of the advantage of playing someone like Ebony. He's got the leadership and the passive to buff himself, so he can sort of double, triple dip. However, the big thing I have to note, and this is why I wanted to do this comparison, is for any of you out there looking to build Ebony Maw, you must sort of compensate for his lack of ignore dodge. He has 0 ignore dodge. He doesn't have any ignore dodge buffs on his skills, on his passives, or on his tier 3. So either you use Proxima's leadership if you can, which is 40% ignore dodge, or you have to bring in multiple strikers. This just so happens that these are the only. Actually, you know what? I could bring in one more. I could bring in one more blast striker. Give me just 1 second here. I just realized that I was using him as a combat ignore dodge striker, but I believe that Deathlock, yeah, I think if you swap him over to his blast uniform, he gains the Agents of Shield passive ability, and that gives him the ignore dodge. Okay, so we go back and we jump in, and so he needs ignore dodge, like badly. And for Null, you're aiming for, anywhere from 70 to, there we go. 70 to 100% ignore dodge, so we're actually going to give him 80%. This is actually ideal for Ebony, but yeah, he does need the ignore dodge, so that is definitely something that he's penalized by, right? So I actually had to move 3 strikers. I had to swap 3 strikers for Ebony, so in that case, it does make him a little bit worse, like it does make his damage a little bit lower, even though he can then take advantage of his lead. So the rotation that we're doing is basically just pressing everything as soon as it comes off cooldown. It's pretty straightforward rotation. Sort of like the Scarlet Witch rotation that you guys are familiar with. Just press it all. Just press all the buttons. We're even going to press 1 and 2 here. And we're going to do pretty big damage. And his tier 3 is just absolutely gorgeous. I just love his tier 3. The animation's amazing. And the damage is pretty consistently good. We can even squeeze. I almost could squeeze in the 4th skill here before I got stunned there. But we're going to do 5, and then we're going to do 6. As soon as we see the eyes, we can cancel into 4, into 3, into 2, into 1. We're going to keep sort of moving over to the side here because we don't want to get... Yep, there it is. We don't want to get hit by the spear. That's going to cleanse all of our buffs and sort of slow us down. But as you can see, and the whole point of doing this comparison is that he's pretty close. He's less than 10 seconds slower, or he's about 10 seconds slower than Mephisto, with 0 Odin's Blessings. Mephisto has 11 Odin's Blessings. I honestly don't know if he would be faster than Mephisto with 11 Odin's Blessings. So this is a really impressive comparison, and this allows you to see the character for what the character is worth. Now, there are some asterisks or caveats to the character, and I will explain them now, and this is why I want to do the comparison. So now let's go back out and let's talk about the build, and let's talk about why he's able to compete with Mephisto for damage against Null on such a high stage, right? We're not talking about a low stage where everyone's flying through it. This is a high stage. This is a very difficult stage. I have very few characters that can do stage 30. We're talking like Moonstone and just a few others. So he's in very good company. But why is he able to do that? Well, it's a combination of the fact that he can take advantage of his own leadership. So he's got 40% energy attack, plus Cyclops' 30% passive, plus he's got the 35% increased elemental damage from Storm, plus his own 30% mind damage. You see where we're going with this? He's stacking 70% energy attack and 65% mind damage. Yeah, it's huge. And then against Null specifically, he's going to give himself another 30% increased damage to villains, which is worth 3 strikers. So he sort of makes up for that lack of ignore dodge. And then against Null specifically again, he's going to give himself a 35% damage reduction, which makes him super tanky. And we'll talk about how that works in PvP. It's really good. And then it also gives him a 35% increased damage dealt, which again makes him really good. So yes, he has a ton of passive buffs that Mephisto doesn't have. But Mephisto's native tier 3, man. So if this guy is competing with a native tier 3, that's very impressive. However, we have to acknowledge the fact that his passives rely on the boss being universal and being a villain. If either one of those two things changes, Ebony Maw's damage goes down. How much it goes down, I can't say. I haven't done extensive, testing with lots of statistical analysis and sort of averaging out the times to see, but it doesn't take a genius, and I'm no math genius, to guess that he's going to be slower against Mephisto, or he's going to be slower against any of these bosses. He's really only going to be able to keep up this speed against other universal bosses. But thankfully, most of the bosses in the game are villains and universal. Keep in mind the ABX boss, even though they appear to be universal, they don't benefit. Ebony doesn't benefit from that universal buff. It doesn't apply to the ABX Frost Beast, so yeah. But yeah, Ebony is really damn good. Against Null, he's really good. Like, he might be better than Mephisto if I were to give him all those Odin's Blessings. Because you can see here, we got 0. And as we can see here, we've got 11, including 4 magics, which is worth a ton. So Mephisto's base energy attack is 70k. Ebony's is 56. He's definitely going to make up a lot of that gap with those Odin's Blessings. But like I said, his damage output is going to depend on who he's fighting, but he is still very, very good. Now, one thing I've seen a lot of people talk about is his Burning Doom passive, his Burning Doom 6th skill, his ultimate ability. Oh, it's energy attack. So actually Rage is better for him than Judgment, Alex, because he doesn't do full elemental damage. Let's go investigate that. We're going to go into a stage where you can only deal elemental damage. And I've already tested this on stream, so if you watched it on Twitch, you know the results. We're going to go into this stage here, Majestic Threat, and we're just going to throw him on the team here. It doesn't really matter. And we're going to jump right in. Sure, it doesn't matter. We're going to jump right in and we're going to test it. So we're going to see, you can do this with any character that has some elemental damage. It's really funny with Jean Grey, but we can see here all of the damage on his 5th skill is elemental. So you can see the full damage numbers. You see a little bit. Oh, you see snare immunity. It's not quite the same. Anyways, you can see his 1 to 5 deals full elemental damage. If it didn't, you would see gray text that says energy damage immunity, or I think it says non-elemental damage. Either way, you would see a bunch of gray text, and you don't. The only gray text you see was the snare immunity because the Ymir boss was immune to snare. But that's his 1 to 5, where it says it has the little tag for mind damage. Let's take a look at his tier 3. As you can see, full damage to Surtur, and he's gone. And that was dealing anywhere from 400 to 700,000 damage a tick. You can see there, non-elemental damage. That's because Loki is striking. So you can see here, I can show you. We go to Carnage here. This is, oh, Bacon's really excited for Carnage. So see, this is non-elemental damage. Oh, there was actually a little blip of damage here and there. I don't know where that damage is coming from. I think it's coming from either Loki or it's coming from Ebony striking. We're getting some crazy frame rate drops. But anyways, you get the point. It's not really something we need to dwell on. So yeah, despite the fact that it says energy damage, his tier 3 does full elemental damage. So this should be mind damage, 60% of energy attack, which is what the rest of them say. So for that reason, I think Judgment is by far the best for him. You could go ahead and slap on a Mighty Judgment or a Brilliant Judgment. I don't know if you want to do that for, it's probably not necessary. He's probably not going to outpace other people for ABX. But as far as World Boss Null goes, he seems to be very, very strong for that. So if you need a Blast Villain and you haven't invested in Mephisto, you haven't invested in Moonstone, but you have a 6-star Ebony Maw, he's honestly cheaper. It's 1,000 crystals versus 5,000 for Moonstone. And the tier 3 is, I think it's 1,200, so it's a little bit more expensive CCF wise than Moonstone, but it's like a third the cost of the CCF for Mephisto. And if he's hanging with Mephisto against Null specifically, that's pretty crazy. Now, okay, maybe you don't need anybody for Null. Maybe you're not trying to push Null. Maybe you don't need any more elemental damage characters to take on this Ebony Maw from the World Boss Ultimates. So what else can Ebony Maw do, this new Ebony Maw? Well, he's obviously an amazing support for PvP, and you can honestly already see that. You've seen that for months, right, where he's one of the top support characters, and now he's just on more teams than ever because his passive is even better than ever. So you're going to see him on a ton of teams, but he's not just a support anymore. Yeah, so this is the coolest thing. I've been playing around with a bunch of different teams, and you can honestly use a bunch of different teams with Ebony Maw, which is what's really cool. In this case, we have this team here with Colossus and Red She-Hulk. I'm doubling down on the damage reductions. So he's got a 35% damage reduction when Universals attack him. He's going to get a 50% damage reduction from either villains or heroes as long as I don't fight a Molecule Man team. And then he's going to get a flat 10% damage reduction from Angered Tenacity on top of a 55% HP lead. So with this build, again, this build is entirely PvE. So you could definitely go the other way and really juice him out for PvP. He can do it. I can check this out. You want to see? You definitely want to see this. Okay, let's check this out. We're gonna play manually, sure, but and I don't know how he plays on auto. Maybe we'll do a couple runs on auto. But check this out. We're going to okay. Basically, he does. Oh, okay. This is the worst possible start. Great. This always happens. Oh, okay. All right. Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to hilarious outtakes of PvP. Anyways, yeah, I'll show you. It's actually really impressive. I'll show you this actually. This is what's really impressive. You're probably blown away by how little damage he's doing to me and how much damage I'm doing to him. That's because of Ebony Maw's passive. Now, I'm still going to die here to him, but Colossus basically one-shot Silver Surfer. Yeah. So anyways, we're going to try again against this team. I'll show you what he actually does, but yeah. And again, I'll acknowledge the standard PSA for PvP here. Why should I build these characters for PvP? I already have XYZ characters for PvP. You're right. You don't have to build these characters for PvP. But he one-shots or two-shots. He does over 100,000 damage per hit. He just has so much damage because of the fact that he has all of these increases that Universals just crumble at his feet. And the other thing is he has these insanely long look at that, 265,000. That was a one-shot on Sentry. He has these insanely long iframes. Look at that, 70, 80, and then 190,000. It's over 268,000 in one shot. And so you can just sit here chaining these long iframes, and it's over. If he gets, it's sort of like if you get them, they're dead. And he's not even that fragile, despite the fact that I didn't build him for PvP at all. He's not, like, he could go a lot higher on his HP stat if I threw a bunch of heal, Odin's Blessings, etc. But he's not that fragile because of all these passive effects that are increasing his damage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times over. Now, he's getting guard broken here. Obviously, that is, yeah, sure, whatever. I can actually kill him. You can get kind of unlucky sometimes, but if you, like, look at the damage. Look at that. He allows Colossus, right? Because he's giving him this crazy buff against universal types. He allows Colossus to, look at this. That's all Ebony. This is all Ebony doing that. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to kill the other Ebony because he's a blast type. No, I'm not going to. But isn't that crazy? I guarantee if you take off his uniform and you try this again, there's no way my Colossus. That the 10% is honestly more than we think it is. It honestly does matter. Here, we're going to try a couple more teams here. He's actually really, really good, and I'm surprised at how good he is despite not having a PvP build at all. And I've seen people report similar success with him using tier 2 Ebony even. Look how fast his 4th skill tracks. Look at that. It's like the tracking on his 4th skill is crazy fast, and he just zips right into the iframe for it. And if 4 doesn't work, you just iframed immediately into 5, and it's over. And look, 5 lasts so long, right? Oh, wow. Vision actually gave me problems. That's crazy. Good for Vision. Oh, Vision got his physical immunity. This is hilarious. But there, we got him. And again, what build do I have on? This is so funny that I actually can't beat any teams now. This always happens when I try to highlight PvP. Listen, I understand that there's really no need to build characters if you've already got Sentry, you've already got Jean Grey and Silver Surfer. Like, these are just really, really expensive new toys. But it's honestly really impressive that he's able to do this given the fact that I have a completely PvE build. So if you really like Ebony and you really like the idea of crushing these PvP metas with Ebony, it can actually, the news I have for you that it can actually work. So we slip out of that. We're just going to pop the 4. Look at that. The lingering damage from the tornado just completely crushes him. Boom, he's gone. We're going to actually take reflect damage here. Ah, that's a bummer. But maybe, oh, you know what? We can't pull it off. We can kill his Silver Surfer. This is the craziest thing now. Because of Ebony, I know that I can kill Silver Surfer with Colossus. Unless he does that. But look at the damage. He takes like no damage. He's taking like no damage. It's so funny. But obviously I can't beat Jean now because she's blasted on combat. Yeah, this is hilarious. This is so funny. Anyways, you don't have to believe me. I mean, you don't have to trust me. You can try it out for yourself. But trust me when I tell you this. It's not the best showcase out there. But the fact that he's able to kill sentries and kill Silver Surfers in a one-shot and 2-tap all these characters with a CTP of Judgment, you could definitely make this work. He's going to do very insane damage. Like, he was overkilling, right? By hundreds of thousands of damage. He was doing like 300, 400k with just a few hits, whereas the highest HP enemies out there have like 300k. So you could do that. You could easily do this with a regen or, you know, an authority, for example, and still have enough damage to one-shot and 2-tap these characters. So he actually has a lot of value in the game. It just really depends on what you're looking for. So I wouldn't say that he is like a must-have, a must-buy. And again, we're sort of at that stage in the game saturation-wise where there's no uniform and there's basically no character outside of like the native tier 3s that are really must-buys and must-haves. Like, you know, as good as Icarus is, or as good as Circe is, or as good as, like, you know, the Maker uniform is, or whatever. Like, none of them are must-buys anymore because we just have so many characters in the game. But if you're newer and you're trying to get a leg up in some of these game modes, he's a much cheaper option than some other characters. Like, would you rather tier 3 Silver Surfer at this point or tier 3 Ebony Maw for PvP? That's honestly a question worth thinking about and worth discussing, because Ebony is 400 CCF cheaper, and he not only doubles as a threat on your PvP team, but he's an amazing support because of his passive, right? And his passive ignores Molecule Man's leadership. So you can still do that team with Molecule Man and Sentry, right? You can still do this here, and that still works. So the punching power here is insane because of that 35-35. So yeah, I think he's a really interesting character. I think he's a little bit underrated in my opinion, and I think he's definitely better than some members of the Black Order overall, but I will leave that comparison and that, you know, analysis video for another day. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think of Ebony Maw, the puppeteer, the puppet master, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.